Hello Kindred, Longevity Lifestyle Designers, this is Zach here, and it is Q&A on Sunday, and I've got many questions, and I'm going to go through them, and if I don't get to the end of them, they'll be passed on along to next week. So at a certain point, I would encourage people, if they have a lot of questions, to check out the link below. I've got a page now on my site where you can go through onto that, and you can see that I have something set up so that we can arrange a phone consultation. So if you have a lot of questions, there's no way that I can get to them all, and it is really a sign that perhaps you need some more in-depth guidance, and you can definitely benefit from this by giving me a call, and we can set up a time that we can do a phone consultation. So right off the bat, the first question is again continuing from Mugda's questions last week, and is what to eat when stressed, coming up to exams or any type of deadline. They're saying they tend to load up on nuts and then end up feeling bloated. First of all, with the nuts, I'd say, unless you're eating copious amounts of them, if you're not soaking them or germinating them to rid them of enzyme inhibitors first, that can be a factor in them causing you a bloated sensation. The only nuts and seeds that don't need to be rinsed are hemp seeds, chia seeds, Brazil nuts. Some people say cashews. I would say don't eat cashews just because they have a natural toxin in them. But any really high-fat nut, although all nuts are high-fat, but a fat-dominant nut doesn't need to be soaked so much. They really don't have as many enzyme inhibitors. They can benefit from being soaked, but like a Brazil nut, I generally eat those straight after I've bought them. So they're handy in that regard, that you don't need to soak them. Or at least I personally can digest them fine without soaking them. But something like an almond, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, hazelnuts, walnuts, all these other types of nuts that are definitely more protein dominant, they do need to be soaked for, I usually just do it overnight, but it's roughly 8 hours. Pour out the rinse water, give them another rinse by pouring water into them and draining that second rinse water. Then you've got the soaked nuts and seeds, and you can either put them in the fridge and keep them, or use them within a short period of time because they will go off because they've been soaked up all this moisture. Or you can put them in the dehydrator and dehydrate them, and they're back into their original state, just minus the enzyme inhibitors, so they can last a long time in your cupboard. So that's an option if you want something that you can eat on the go, take to an exam or getting ready for a deadline when you don't have as much time to spend on preparing food. But yeah, if you don't want to overdo the nuts and seeds, do a little bit of sugar in the form of fruit or honey. This is convenience. Definitely don't overdo it, because otherwise that sugar is going to be really hard on your immune system. Just like too much fat is hard on your immune system, and that causes problems in terms of being able to concentrate for an exam or any other deadline. But just preparing food in advance is generally how you're going to have the convenience to be able to accomplish this. Now, an excellent herb for stress, which I use quite often, is holy basil, and it's been shown to lower cortisol levels in the blood, and cortisol is the hormone released under low levels of constant stress. So while it's necessary to have this hormone to counteract the effects of stress, when it's continually being produced, our body can get into a habit of making it, and taking holy basil actually starts to bring that down, and it's beneficial in that regard. It's a Shen tonic in the sense that it's very accentuating and purifying to the Shen, which is the spirit, or sort of a spiritual aspect of our being. So the reason it's called holy basil is because it has these properties, really calming the emotions, calming the mind, and it's often used by meditators. So if you want to get into that really focused state, holy basil is great. So you can check below, there's a link if you want to get some holy basil. And you can make a tincture out of it. That's really handy, carrying around a tincture that you can just drop in your mouth, that fits in your pocket or in your backpack. Or you can make the tea at the start of the day and make a drink with the holy basil tea as the base. Now the next question is, are enemas safe, and how often should they be done? And yes, enemas are completely safe. They're very beneficial in a whole wide range of applications. I'm not an expert on their uses in terms of disease, but I mean, if you have any sort of disease of that area of the body, they can be beneficial, but obviously not if it's any sort of rupture that can aggravate that or cause problems, which you want to work with a practitioner to find out exactly the applications in a situation where you have some sort of tearing of the colon or a large intestine. But at the Hippocrates Health Institute, they recommend doing an enema every day. even more if you're really sick, and it helps get the toxins going. And I'd recommend anyone transitioning to a raw food diet, even just for the first period of time, if they've done it suddenly and are eating completely 100% raw, whatever that means. But basically, their intention is to eat all raw food. The body's going to start detoxifying, and the colon's the last organ of detoxification, so you have a lot of toxins going through there. So doing enemas helps bring all of this out and get it out without the what's called auto-intoxication, whereas toxins are being reabsorbed and just being redeposited into the tissues that you've just worked so hard to detoxify. So yeah, the protocol there is basically to take one enema once a week during your first year of transition onto raw food, and after a year they say you don't need to do it anymore. You know, it's really up to you if you do that more than that after that period. I think it could be beneficial to do it maybe once a month. Do it whenever you have really bad indigestion from eating a lot of bad food combining type of situations. And yeah, there are some people that do use them daily throughout their life, and they have really great benefits. You know, look at Anne Wigmore. She had really amazing health. Unfortunately, she died in a fire. So we don't really know the long-term effects of her lifestyle that included the daily enemas. And your next question is about fermented foods and what applications do I use them in my diet. You know, I eat sauerkraut quite often. I have some probiotics that I take once in a while. I generally don't do too many things at once, otherwise I get too bloated and gassy personally, and that's just an effect of the bacteria taking root and proliferating. But you know, you don't need to constantly be like super dosing your gut like that. I mean, there's times when you need to do that if you've just suffered some sort of issue, like you've taken antibiotics for some reason, maybe you had Lyme's disease and had to use certain antibiotics because nothing else would work, even natural things. But yeah, so that's the case to use probiotics in very large amounts, whether it's fermented foods or probiotics or some combination of them. And you're also mentioning that you got a really bad case of the hiccups that lasted 2.5 days. I mean, that's brutal. I've never had that happen. And quite honestly, I don't have any information for that because I don't work with people that have issues like that generally. I focus on longevity, specific problems. Food allergies is not my specialty either. You're saying you had a wrap with sunflower seeds and some goji berry powder, and possibly I think you might be experiencing just a bad food combination with the goji powder and the sunflower seeds. You know, fat and sugars, or fruit sugars rather, don't combine well in the gut, and they can ferment, and that can cause possibly a hiccup type situation if you're prone to that. And then your last question is about eating a high protein. You think that's going to cause acidity because protein is made of amino acids, and there's the word acids there. Now, protein's needed by the body, so technically a strictly high fat diet or a strictly high carbohydrate diet or a strictly high protein diet, if you were to look at each one of those, they're acidic because those are calorie based. Anything that's building to the body is acidic because our flesh and our more external tissues that are moved away from the organs and bones and bone marrow and blood, these things are acidic and they're replenished quite frequently. Whereas the things like the bones, the more internal aspects of our body are more built out of minerals, and yes, there's proteins in them, but they're more alkaline because they have the alkaline minerals. So in this case, we have to look at the foods that have the highest quantities of alkaline minerals and not just disregard the sort of conventional pH alkaline acid balance sort of confusion that's out there, because it's really prevalent. You know, eating algae, although it's high protein, it's acidic. No, it's actually green. It's very high in calcium, very high in iron, very high in silicon. All these alkaline minerals. It's going to have an alkaline effect on the body. Same with green juice, same with dairy. Raw dairy is going to be alkaline because it has calcium in it. People that say it's acidic, it doesn't quite make sense because David Wolfe has a very great explanation for this. It's the dairy or milk of animals, the leaves of plants, the bark of plants that are alkaline, and it's the roots of plants, the seeds of plants, and the flesh of animals that is acidic. So when we have too much of our diet being one way or the other, that's when problems occur. And yes, both aspects of those things have alkaline and acidic components, but we have to look at what aspects of our diet has the highest quantities of both these acid and alkaline minerals. We want them roughly in balance. And for a period of time, we might do higher alkalinity to restore balance after having eaten a lot of acids for a long time. So that's all the time I have for questions this week. I'll answer them more next week. I've got an ongoing list of them that have accumulated, so if you want to get your questions answered ASAP, definitely check out the link below, which is the link to the page on my site where you can arrange to have a phone consultation with me, and it's probably the best option you have if you're wanting to make some significant, long-lasting, and lifestyle changes for the better. So I'll see you next week and throughout the week, so take care.